speakers are available to hear and be heard. It is 7:04 p.m. This open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted both remotely and in person, consistent with the temporary provisions of the open meeting law, which extends remote meeting protocols through March 31st, 2025. This meeting is convening via Zoom video conference and in person as posted on the meeting agenda, which can be found on the Town of Grafton website. Please see the meeting agenda for details on how to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Screen share, please be aware that anything you share on your screen will likely be recorded as part of the meeting. This meeting may feature public comment. For anyone attending virtually who would like to request acknowledgement to speak, please use the raise hand feature. If you're on the phone, the meeting administrator will allow you to speak. For those in person, we ask you to step to the podium and state your name and address, or that goes for all speakers. And each vote in this meeting will be done on a roll call vote.
Brian, Bill needs you to lean in closer to the mic.
And at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Assistant Chair Bill McCusker.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, sorry.
Something like that. So next order of business is case number 892. Continuation. So this is 59 Pleasant Street, a 40B. I think the intention tonight is to go over, really kind of finalize the decision. But before we get to that point, I'll ask the applicant, do you have anything that you want to add or say or do or?
No, I don't think so. A few things have been added to, I believe, the documents from the fire department, of course, and I think there were some things actually also from the Conservation Commission, but I'm sure you guys will, update what you guys received on your end. I think all of our plans are up to date. They reflect our understanding as Graves' final memo. Everything all matches there as well. So I think that mostly was all technical stuff that Mr. Hill was working on, other than the fire and the language of the fertilizer stuff and the
okay.
What else was there? The fire, fertilizer,
the sewer capacity
memos. Yeah, I think that kills a lot of them, other than some technical ones we're still talking about. The sign references as well, square footages. I think those have been kind of squared away as well, but maybe Mr. Hill can kind of talk probably a little bit better on some of the changes he's made.
Okay. Then, with that in mind, I guess, Dan, do we just want to start into your draft decision? And how do you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
How do you want to do that?
I'm just setting up my computer right now. I was just on the road.
Okay.
If you give me a minute, I can log in by Zoom.
That's fine.
Do you guys have the draft that I sent to Katrina about an hour ago?
Yep, we all have it in print form in front of us. So while you're getting set up, I'll just go back to the Graves letter. So there's actually two things I think that are kind of open, and I'll use that word very loosely in Graves' letter. So the first one is item number 2, where Jeff says the design engineer responded. They submitted a letter signed and stamped by a professional engineer. Copy was not included with materials. Do we have that letter, Katrina? Do you know?
So I did. Just to interrupt. I did look. That is posted. It was provided. I just don't think it was.
Okay.
So I don't believe you've seen it, but it is posted online with a date of 6/5/23, so June 5th. That was provided.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. So it's like an early June date, you said?
June 5th.
Okay. I'll double check that. All right, and then the other one I think is like at the end. Oh, I assume that Dan will probably have a condition in there about the roof runoff. Okay, so that's we'll just have to check that as we go through. All right. Perfect.
Did we get a letter from the fire chief
Yes.
signing off on the entire project?
Yes. I thought I sent it to everybody. It came in from Mike Colleen on the 18th. This letter acts as a statement that the requested and mandated requirements of the Grafton Fire Department regarding the plans submitted for 59 Pleasant Street as of today's date have been completed. Thank you. So I thought I'd forward that to everybody. I'm sorry.
Okay. So then one other thing, I know that, I exchanged some mail with the conservation agent. I don't know what actually ended up getting forwarded to the case. But, I was asking, you know, for language, and what came out of that is that they have some language in their order of conditions that addresses fertilizers. But it really only addresses fertilizers used within, I guess, the 100-foot buffer zone. And I think there was communication from Art Allen trying to define, you know, what low nitrogen or whatever it is, you know, whatever the low number that we're trying to get. So I'm pretty sure Dan has those, and I haven't had a chance to see what's in his decision. Maybe that'll be in his decision as well. But you know, it kind of occurred to me that it seems like this whole topic maybe should have been in order of conditions, but maybe the Concom can't put it in because it's out of their jurisdiction or something. I'm not sure, but it just seemed to me that, you know, this is something that really Concom probably could have and should have been the ones putting language in, but we'll see what Dan has as we get into this. So I think I've stalled enough. I see Dan is there now. So thanks. All right. Do you want to share your screen, Dan, or how do you want to do this to go through this, or how do you want Katrina to share it, or
why don't you have Katrina share it?
Or we could just
probably
talk
better for Katrina to share it, and then we can just walk through it. There's only 5 or 6 changes I think that that we need to talk about, and there was a few waivers that I wasn't sure where we landed at the end. So
okay.
Hold on, let me get in there.
I feel like you're so close. There we go.
Where do we, oh, right there. Okay, sorry.
yeah, so this first change, I just added the language about the roof drains.
Yeah.
I took Jeff's language from his letter.
Seems reasonable.
Oops. Wrong thing. Let's do there.
So it looks like page 4, there's some, just some minor, bulleting changes. So I guess that's all okay. So I guess the next substantive change is on page 7, bottom of page 7. Completely stricken out the, site clearing construction work shall not occur.
Yeah, so if you scroll down, there's the alternative language. So this is where I think we left off, and I'm highlighting that last sentence because I'm not sure if we completely agreed on what we're allowing in terms of vehicles arriving on the site at 7 or before 7. Do we care that vehicles arrive early and just not be running, or do we want to have zero activity until 7 a.m.?
So I think what we kind of decided was not necessarily the zero activity. What I thought we were doing was try and put some language together that talked about noises. So, you know, there can't be any, you know, starting of equipment, operating of any tools, unloading of trucks, no backup alarms, something like that. So I guess we were going to try and put in some sort of language that tried to hit a lot of the points. that basically addresses, no noise, right? We don't want, if somebody comes on site beforehand and they're sitting there quietly and having a cup of coffee waiting for 7 o'clock, that's fine. If they're gonna start unloading their truck, if they're gonna start starting up their equipment, if they're gonna start backing an 18-wheeler up a hill twice, we want to be able to stop that. And I think Chad was okay with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of did something similar like Dan did. I went back on some of the past projects that I've had in regards to that another town did, and they just used an example. I think I've got here, chicken scratched. No construction-related activities shall start before 7 a.m. And there was parentheses, for example, no earthwork activities, power tools, hammering, generators, and unloading of construction materials. I mean, that's what another town had. I think that's kind of... You can sink your teeth into some of those examples, I suppose, and we have no issues with that.
Yeah, so I think we want to go somewhere in that direction, Dan. I'd like backup alarms in there if we could, please.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Is that something that, Dan, can you add
Yeah.
that in? Do you need what Clay, Chad just said?
I think let me try this out. So I think we would then take out that last sentence and then substitute it for, because I think we still want to have something very explicit.
Yes.
And I would say something to the effect that if vehicles arrive prior to 7 a.m., there shall be no operating of equipment, tools, vehicles, unloading or loading of materials, and no backup, no generation of backup alarms.
Yep.
And I think it can be that simple. That way we're not prohibiting vehicles from arriving before 7. We're just saying if they arrive before 7, these are the rules that would apply.
Yeah. I think it's something along those lines. And I think what we're really after is just that if there is a problem, that we have something to go back on and say, look, you can't be doing it. You can't be making noise. So I think something like that, Dan, would work.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't like that as well, because then Katrina gets the call, then I got to get a call, and then I got to
Exactly.
respond to it and write a memo, and
Yeah.
it's a two-way street as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes it does happen on the rare occasions, but
Right.
it's not all the time.
Yeah, and I suspect even the neighbors, I'm sure the neighbors are reasonable as well, and it happens once, that's fine. I think down in South Grafton, unfortunately, it was happening every single day,
Yeah, that's not good.
and
Yeah.
that's where the problems really start.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've taken notes and I've drafted that language for C7, and I'll plug that in after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So then, page 11 looks like there's some more pagination sorts of things. So I guess the next substantive change is on 12. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, that's what Leah had recommended.
Yep.
I went and looked at that condition. I mean, it's nowhere near as robust as this what I had drafted before. It simply states that if you're going to be applying any nitrogen or phosphorus, you have to basically get permission from the Conservation Commission to do it. I'm just paraphrasing, but I think that's what you guys wanted anyway. You just wanted to make sure there was some kind of control and oversight over that. So
That's fine.
all right. So then we have the sign off from the fire chief, so that little note can come out.
Okay.
6 is fine. Okay.
Moving on, looks like just, minor paragraph edits and things like that. Right, so then the next substantive change, I guess, is on page 21.
Yeah, so
7 and 8.
so this is under the sewer section. I read the report from the consultant, and they did recommend that there be inspections both during construction and after occupancy to make sure there aren't any problems. So I drafted this language if you want to use it. If not, you can just leave it up to the sewer department to regulate it, but it's up to you. Further, after development is constructed and occupied, it's
Scheduled inspection approved by the sewer department to check. I mean, if this was in the letter from the sewer department, and I have to admit, I don't remember, but it sounds like that's what you're saying, Dan.
Yeah,
I think it's appropriate to have it in here. They've essentially asked us to have this, or make sure they do this, so I think it's very appropriate and respectful of their commentary to include it.
Yeah, this is verbatim what they wrote, and this is their recommendation.
Okay? I just point out that "the" is misspelled about mid-paragraph there.
Okay.
But, yeah. I'm okay with it. Anyone else?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
That's we would do that regardless. So
I
no
mean,
problem.
in all reality, you don't do what the sewer or water district wants you to do. You don't play the games. I don't even know why we need
Thanks,
this
Peter.
stuff, but
Yeah, I understood. Okay. I just think it's respectful of them. You know, they've given us input. We should
Yeah.
do it. Okay. So that's I-7 and I-8, right, Dan?
And then I just added I-8, which is just confirming that the applicant has to maintain these systems.
Yeah, okay.
It obviously goes without saying, I think, but we do have this language in other decisions. So I think that was just an oversight that wasn't in there in this one, so now it's there.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing I don't want to be maintaining your easement drainage. We want to get technical.
All right.
All right, this is the the additional sign waiver that Clay had forwarded to us.
Yeah. What was 2 square feet? What you?
It
I thought it was
was 2 square feet.
125.
I double checked
Yeah,
with
it
Bob, it was 2 square feet.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And even if they put it on the wall, then the wall could only be 2 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. I was reading the actual condition, right? But then a waiver to allow externally illuminated 25 square foot wall sign at the project.
Bob,
Yeah. Okay.
that's new.
I think that's fine.
In the one above it, we could actually take out. I mean, it's up to the applicant if they really want this in here, but we're denying it, so we can just remove it if they like.
Sorry, I'm thinking as we're
No,
talking.
no worries. So we're on page 26, number 8.
Yeah, it was just going back in time with Bob's thing. Our recollection was that actually the retaining wall, if the sign goes on a retaining wall, the retaining wall itself does not count.
Bob said it did.
That's why I want to make sure I'm covered here. So
That's
Some-
because I specifically asked him before I sent the email to Clay. Because I said, well, what if they have a retaining wall and they put the name of the thing on the front?
Yeah.
He goes, that retaining wall becomes the sign and that can only be 2 square feet.
all right, so
That's weird.
That's what he said to me. I could be wrong, but I double checked
buy
with him. I don't either, but he said that becomes the wall becomes the sign. I'm just telling you what I
it'd be
said.
an awful small wall.
Exactly.
Or an awful big sign. I mean,
Yeah.
so wait a minute. Stop and Shop puts their sign on the front of their buildings. Does the whole building becomes a sign? Of course not.
No, there's that definition in the bylaws that we talked about last meeting.
That's a free
Where-
Yeah,
space.
where they actually describe it.
Yeah, where it's the I don't know, the
Backlit something or
outside borders of the actual letters or design.
because I asked and I worded it that way. I said, what if they have a retaining wall? The name of development. He said, can only be 2 square feet.
I think we gave waivers for that Stop and Shop. That whole,
Well, for the size of the sign, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? He's saying you put a sign on a wall, the whole wall becomes the sign, and that's not right.
yeah, like you say, there's the whole front of the building.
Right, yeah.
That's not what we read last week. I forget where that was. In this,
2 weeks ago.
Do you know if Bob's available?
It's tonight.
Yeah.
He
I'll text him right now.
should be. He should be. It's Wednesday. I know on Thursdays he's busy.
I mean, we could put a 4 foot by 20 foot retaining wall if as a condition, as a sign with letters. I mean, does that help matters? I don't think it's going to be any bigger than the retaining. It's just like an accent wall.
Well, wait a minute.
If we don't get a hold of him, I mean, he's the enforcement officer, so
Yeah.
if he says that, then I have a 4 by 20 foot stone retaining wall with letters
And
attached.
when he's-
or
But wait a
something
minute,
like
is this a retaining wall that's a functional retaining wall? No, so it's just a wall
that. Yeah,
that then's gonna have some letters and
yeah.
whatnot.
It'll probably blend into the berm that's
Yeah.
near the street. That's. I mean, I
Oh, I
don't really have that figured out, but that's what I plan on doing.
Where did the
More like a landscape feature.
where did the 25 square feet come from? What is that, 5 by 5 or?
We were thinking more like 3 by 8, just as
Yeah,
a
it was-
round number.
Yeah,
You know,
we would
that
be
would be
safe
just-
with 3 by 8.
Or 2-foot letters that sort of go
Yeah.
across.
2-foot letters.
Set on just a nice stone wall, it's a nice look.
But
You know how big the wall's gonna be?
What's that?
Do you know about how big the wall will be?
Yeah, that's what I said. Maybe 4 by 20.
Yeah, we just need to specify the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about in this decision? I want to table that until we get through everything else, but that's the last one.
There were some waivers at the end under the subdivision rules and regs that I didn't have a note on as to whether we discussed it or not. But I think I believe Jeff has signed off on all of them, so I just wanted to make sure we are okay with those.
Oh, from 28 on.
So,
Yeah,
which ones, Dan, are you asking about specifically?
I think now that I think what happened here is that the notes just didn't get imported, but no, I think I think we went through all these with Jeff at the last meeting, and
Yeah.
he was fine.
We did.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
If
I
you
have,
could scroll
I have
down.
okays in my notes on, looks like all of them.
okay. All right, so I'll just plug in aloud on these. Can you scroll down, Katrina, all the way to the end?
Ah,
I think this was it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, on that sign issue, I think, one approach would be we allow the waiver as written, and then if Bob interprets the bylaw differently, the applicant can come back and ask for a minor modification to address this one issue.
Yeah, but likewise, if we know that Bob's gonna say the whole thing's gonna be a sign, then let's just take care of it now, and maybe we should just do that.
did you text Bob?
Yeah, I texted him, he hasn't responded. So if we were to, all right, so if we were to accept what Bob is saying, how big a sign is it?
Well, that's what I just said. I was thinking how to word it. If I'm doing a retaining wall that's 4 feet by, what did I say, 20?
That's
Four-
80 square
that
feet.
would be
by
80
20
square
feet with a
feet.
sign not
But
to
but
exceed.
protect yourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
if you call it a retaining wall, then it's not like I'm putting up some weird thing. And then maybe the letters are the 20 attached to it is 25 square feet of letters and spacing. I guess I think I don't I'm open to suggestions.
Waiver to allow an externally illuminated sign of 80 square feet with 25 square feet of lettering.
Yeah. Or just call out the retaining wall. It's a stone retaining
Yeah.
wall is
Oh.
fine as well.
Or decorative wall.
Yeah, decorative wall.
Yeah, I'm just concerned though, if Bob is calling the wall the sign, and we're talking about a waiver of the size of the sign, then, by saying you're trying to make that distinction, it kind of goes against what I think Bob is saying. So that's,
Unless we just want to say an 80 square foot sign.
Is that gonna go on
I don't,
both?
because I can just imagine something like Las Vegas all of a sudden. I know.
Is there gonna be two walls, one on each side of the
don't
driveway?
know.
So 2 signs? 'Cause
I don't, try to kill this one. It's. I'm not going anywhere. I don't have a problem coming to a meeting and then
Yeah,
sketching
let's
something with
do
you
it.
guys as a what do you call it, an insubstantial change,
Yeah.
Dan. I mean, if we can
Yeah.
get away with an insubstantial change at a later date when I know what I'm doing, I have no problems coming in.
All right, then let's just stick with what we got, the 25 square feet.
Yeah. Okay.
And if Bob says what you're planning on doing
Sure.
doesn't fit,
Yeah.
then we'll deal with it.
I'm-
Okay, that's
I'm-
fine.
I'm fine
If you're good with that,
Yeah.
we're not going anywhere either. Sure we'll have a meeting sometime and you can come join us. All right,
I got a question on
Yeah, absolutely, please.
page 31, streetlights. I don't know if the selectmen will make them provide a streetlight out on Pleasant Street. And that can't, that's gonna have to be to town specs, not to what, I don't care what they have inside the property. But the one, if one is required at the intersection of Pleasant and their driveway, then,
Yeah, so-
and that's gonna be owned by the town, then that should be the town specs.
Yeah,
And it's
so,
not written up this way. It says streetlights shown, as shown, waiver requested to allow the type and style of streetlights shown on approved plan set. Now, I didn't look at the plan to see if they had one at the entrance.
It's on our property, there's nothing out in the right of way.
There's nothing out in the, right, well, that's the only one I'm concerned with. I'm not concerned with what's in the property, because you have to maintain them. But if the select board says that you have to put one at the, to light up the intersection
but the,
from the street,
what is that lighting up?
That's just the bus shelter area.
what is it lighting up?
You said the bus shelter.
But we talked about last week, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about a pole light outside on the street.
Right, that would have to be the town specs.
But we're not waiving that, because that's not on the plan set, right? So what we're saying, waiver to allow what's on the plan
What's
set.
on the plan, okay.
If they turn around and say they want one on Pleasant Street,
Yeah.
then they just have to do what the select board says.
Okay,
Yeah, that's National Grid in the
right.
town right of way,
No, I'm
actually.
fine.
So
Yeah, so I
You're right,
think we're
yeah.
good on this, Peter.
that would be a different spec, yeah.
Okay.
I just have one more change that I think got missed. Waiver number 2 about building heights.
Oh, yeah.
So, as we discussed at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, the front elevation of the building would be 37 feet height, up from the median grade, and then 47 in the rear. So I just want to make sure that that gets captured in the verbiage here as well.
Yeah. Dan, you got that?
Yeah, so just so we're clear, so the waiver request is a 47 foot, is 47 feet, but the decision's gonna say allowed only as measured from the rear of the building, the height as measured from the front of the building shall not exceed 37 feet.
Yep.
Correct, yep.
So it changed 45 to 47, 35 to 37.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Do you guys want to put a condition in the decision that states that the applicant shall install a light, a street light or a lamp at the intersection as may be directed by the select board? Just so that you've covered it, so no one can say, well, I don't have to do this because it wasn't in the decision. I mean, I'm just not sure how do those decisions get made in Grafton? At what point does the select board say, hey, wait a second, I want a light there?
Yeah, I don't either.
Peter, do you know?
We petition the town through National Grid. We don't have the authority. National Grid has to do it. So if you make me petition through National Grid, then the select board have to sign off on the light because they ultimately have to pay the bill. And they decide if they want the light there, which I'm sure they would.
Okay, so who makes a decision that there should be a light there? Did our traffic review mention it?
No, that was the streetlight person. I was it for a while.
No.
I don't even know if they do it anymore. I used to be given sets of plans or requests from people, and if they wanted a light, I'd look at it and give a mini report to my fellow board members.
But yeah, okay, but you're a little bit further on the process than what I was asking. So So Chad just said, if I want a light, I have to petition, go through National Grid petition stuff.
No,
But,
no, you go through the select,
well, but National Grid.
Yes.
He has to start with
they
National.
might
They
install.
won't, they won't do anything until they have to get the selectmen's approval for any lights.
Yeah. But even before that, so how do you decide that you want a traffic light there or not?
Not a traffic light.
Oh, yeah, on
Well,
street.
I'm under the assumption that somebody wanted a light at that intersection. I mean, typically where there's lights, so I have no problems with doing it. And if it's one of our lights, it's our lights, but it might make sense more to do a normal street light for the town of Grafton. But that takes, I can do it as like an applicant. It's still got to go in front of the selectmen because they're going to take it over just like a subdivision anyways. So the selectmen have to sign off on it.
I mean, a street light sounds good, but that's an expense to the town, and I don't necessarily know that we go putting street lights up everywhere, right? I mean,
Well, that's why we can't force it. We might suggest it, but it would be the selectmen the select board that, okays it.
okay.
They have the final authority.
Yep, I understand that. So then what can we do at this point in a decision is we can request the applicant pursue a traffic, a street light,
Correct.
something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it sounds good.
With the board of selectmen's approval.
yeah.
Well, that you request it from the select board,
Yeah.
they might say no to you.
Very
And you're
well.
off the hook.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason that whole thing was started, because in the 90s, the town was basically broke.
Yeah.
And they set up a committee and they looked at every light in town and they took a third of them away.
Yeah.
To save money, and so
No, it kind of makes sense. I mean, ultimately, the town's got to pay for it, right? So, it makes sense that.
But it is 104 units, so it's,
Yeah, oh yeah,
I look at it as,
Pretty significant.
as like a street going in there.
yeah, sure.
It's pretty significant. I couldn't see them not wanting it, but
Right, okay. So Dan, are you, so it sounds like the sentiment of the board is that we probably should put something in along those lines.
Yep.
Are you okay with what you want to add, or?
Yeah, why don't we just wordsmith now? So I think what we want to do is put a condition in the decision that the applicant shall propose a streetlight to cover the intersection,
At the project entrance?
the project entrance intersection,
Yep,
the project entrance, to the select board, and shall design and install the light per the select board's requirements
sounds good.
at its own cost.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do you want me to reread it?
Yep, please.
The applicant shall propose a streetlight to cover the project entrance to the select board
Actually, can
and
you
shall,
say on a streetlight on Pleasant Street?
yes, good, a streetlight on Pleasant Street.
At the project entrance. Well, no, let's just say on Pleasant Street.
Well, do you want to say, I mean, the purpose is to illuminate the
Yeah.
project entrance, right?
Yeah.
So can we just say that, to illuminate the project entrance?
Yep.
Should we use petition versus propose?
Well, you're proposing a streetlight and you're petitioning the select board. I think
Okay.
that's, so I think, the applicant shall propose a streetlight on Pleasant Street to illuminate the project entrance through a petition to the select board. How about that?
yeah, that's clean.
Through a petition to the select board, and shall design and install the light pursuant to the select board's requirements and at its own expense.
Works for me.
So it sounds reasonable.
We could ask our past select board member Colleen if they still do this.
Sure.
We'll put her on the spot. Do they still does the select board still have a streetlight officer?
Poll petitions. I never met the streetlight officer if that's the case, but we do a lot of poll petitions. So I imagine.
Well, that's poll. That's.
But I never met a streetlight officer like
Okay.
yourself. So nice to meet one.
That was the last.
You might have been.
You did such a great job, they haven't been able to fill the position.
Yeah, I doubt that.
Okay. Seems reasonable. Other input from anyone on the board? So I think we're at the end of the line here, so is there any public input before we close this public hearing? Anyone care to speak?
John Morrow, 54 Pleasant Street. I just want to thank the board for their work in regard to this project. I know you have one hand tied behind your back before you start. I understand that. Again, we can look back, look at all the questions, issues. I think when these projects come before the town, there's got to be more than just a few people negotiating these lit projects, my opinion. I mean, from Christopher Drive to Gristmill, there are no sewers. Here we go again. I know that Mr. Canoyer is not definitely in favor of pump stations and forced mains, but we only have a quarter mile to go. Why couldn't we put a gravity system in? Those are the kind of things I think we've got to consider moving ahead. I know that you guys vetted the best you could in the time frame you're allowed. I don't envy you. But the neighborhood, the neighbors still have concerns about traffic speed, the amount of vehicles, and that I know people will be very vigilant during the construction process. That's all I have to say.
I just would like to comment on, what you said about more people involved in negotiation. Is kind of curious. I had a conversation with one of the select board members today, and that was proposed. And what was said to me is we should include the ZBA in the negotiation process. And I had to point out to him that I've been told that actually we can't be involved. Because of our role as, they sometimes describe it as a quasi judicial board or something along those lines. So we really can't be involved is what I've been told. But I think your point of more people being involved is spot on. And I would encourage you to actually make that recommendation to the select board. And I know I've had conversations, with select board members and, along those exact same lines. I had one today, but I've had them before as well. I think there's some members of the select board who recognize that there needs to be more input.
Right.
And,
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just, at this project, we got sidewalk between two sidewalks. We got swampland, and we got $100,000. To me, that's what we got. I know we got affordable units, yes, but I'm just saying, what else can we do to help the town infrastructure, things like that?
Yep. I think those are all fair points.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. We also got the Pullard Road, Pleasant Street intersection straightened out. Anyone else? Any other input?
Hi, I'm Catherine Pizzacani at 4 Christopher Drive. I just wanted to add that I think this project will have no benefit whatsoever, and I know there's not a lot of wiggle room, but the idea of putting all these apartment units in a single-family residential area is just so disturbing at best. And I know there's not many people at the meetings anymore, but it's not because people all of a sudden think this is a great idea or they're all in favor of it. It's because people just feel like that their voice doesn't really matter, and we have no power, no say, no nothing, and this thing is just crammed through, and that's it. Goodbye, see you later. Affordable housing for very few people, and it's really disturbing. You just feel shut out of the process, and it's just a really disappointing, awful experience. And that goes back to the very, very beginning, back with this select board. So, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry you feel that way. Anyone else want to say anything? Anyone on the Zoom or phone?
I've got a question,
Yeah.
and this is probably an odd one, but, can we put a condition in that says a building permit can be given at what point can a building permit be given? How much blacktop do they have to have down? Can we do it with just suitable gravel down?
No.
I'm looking, we can do anything we want, I think.
Per fire, not per fire, and because we had this happen at,
Prentice.
no, it first actually happened at Providence Road.
Okay.
They have to have enough of a top coat down to emergency vehicles get to the farthest point in the project. So before we can even issue a building permit, the blacktop has to be given to the farthest part of the project where the farthest building's gonna go. Because if they're back there working and they have to get emergency vehicles in there, that has to be able to support the ambulances or the fire trucks. And what happened was, Providence Road was one of the first ones where we caught it that we didn't have that, and it's been put in since. And that's a requirement by the fire department.
See,
Where are you going with this?
Years ago, I want the count.
Say that again?
I want the count.
What do you
I want
mean?
104 units to be counted as quick as we can have them count. I don't care when they get built.
So
I
here's.
just want them to count.
So, hold on. So, SHI, every 2 years, we have to give them an update. We can't piecemeal it. There's no way for us to piecemeal it. They don't like us to piecemeal it. Once the comprehensive, and Dan can correct me on this one, I think once the comprehensive permit gets issued, we can petition for it, but they don't count it till the buildings are done, because Prentice, they're not gonna take until all 3 buildings are done and occupied.
It's
No,
when they
it's when the
pull the
building
first,
permit's
when they pull the first permit.
But in a complex, like, it's different, because they wouldn't take all 3 buildings in Prentice till all 3 building permits were pulled.
Oh, really?
And we pull a permit one at a time, per building.
All right.
Your units, all the units count in the SHI upon the issuance of the comprehensive permit. But if building permits are not issued within a year, then the units come off of the SHI until the building permits are issued again.
Yeah.
And then they have to be occupied. There needs to be occupancy permits within a year of the building permits.
Yeah.
And that's what I've heard as well. And there's other folks in town that are very interested in us getting this onto the SHI as well. So I think we're going to do everything we can to make that happen quickly. I guess where you were going is making it easy for them to get the building permits based on things like binder, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, in the 90s, we used to put in whole developments that were gravel and they were building houses.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
That only started with, excuse me a minute, 2 building inspectors ago.
DeSantis or DuBois? Roger DuBois?
After Roger,
After Roger was Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis.
History lesson.
There is also
Dan.
somebody who wants to say something.
As I understand it, under Regulation 760, it's the earliest when this decision is filed with the town clerk. At that point in time, the town clerk can submit those units and the SHI to whatever is called now, it was DHCD. So it's the earliest. If you look at 760, it's the earliest of these conditions. The earliest condition being when the town clerk receives the approved project and it's stamped in and it's gone through all of the appeals process like at Prentice Place. So it's the earliest of those conditions. So to Peter's point, that if this is approved, then it gets filed with the town clerk. after everything is signed off. And at that point, the planning department can seek to have these units as part of their affordable housing units and their subsidized housing inventory. And unless that's changed recently, which I don't think it has, because, you know, I've had debates with the past, you know, town planner. And, you know, I've spent time looking at it. So, you know, I think to Peter's point that when it's filed with, Candy at the town clerk's office,
Well,
that's the approval of the project.
After the 20-day appeal period. It's got to go through the appeal period first.
After the 21 days, but it's not directly tied into the building permits being issued. And as far as the delay at if I may use that example of Fisherville Terrace, that was associated with the building permit being issued because of the 10-year delay in that project, you know, getting underway from the time it was approved. So, you know, my understanding of it is when it is filed with the town clerk, then the planning department can seek to have those numbers, you know, included.
I think that's what Dan said.
Right.
But the issue is they need to get their permits, and they're not going to get their permits until they're ready to build, or, you know, things are in line, and that may take a year. Right. So and then it falls out. Which is what happened on Pine Street.
If it falls out at that point, but the law states that 760, it's the earliest of these conditions.
But that's what Dan said. I think we're all in agreement on that part.
Okay.
And I've heard that from other people in town, that as soon as this is filed, I think the town planner's already teed it up to get it onto the SHI. The issue is keeping it on the SHI. I think that's the bigger concern as far as when they can get building permits. That gets back to Peter's point. And I was just trying to scan through, you know, what, Dan, maybe you can find it quicker, but what do we have in the permit now as far as when they can pull permits or what have you?
Condition F5 says that no building permit for a building in the project shall be issued until the base and binder coat of pavement for the portion of the driveway serving that building has been installed.
Bingo.
So that's the language we've been using in the last few decisions.
I thought we had something like that, and it's the serving the building that, so they don't have to do all of the binder.
Right.
Well, I suppose unless they're gonna build the back building first.
Well, no, it says they have to do the binder coat. That's the first coat.
That's what
Right.
that's how
So I wouldn't want to remove that part of it, but it's not like they have to do everything.
No, they just have to have a binder code. It's something.
But they don't have to do the whole, you were saying the whole project. They don't have to do the whole project.
no.
They just have to do.
To whatever building they're
whatever
working
building,
on.
To do binder coat, you gotta do all your drainage, you gotta
Yes,
do all
you
your
do. Yep.
electric, you gotta
Yes.
do all your, everything underground, so.
Yeah, I would not be comfortable in taking the binder coat part of it out.
But this is per the fire department. This was per the fire department. Like I said, it had happened at.
But to Peter's point, we can waive this if we wanted to.
We could.
We can waive this if we wanted to. But I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. And, you know, I think we've had other situations where essentially they've had to do a lot of work just to be able to do one building. And yeah, they pretty much have to do all of the infrastructure.
Right.
You know, I don't think there's any way around that. Go ahead, Chuck.
Most likely the binder's going down. I know where Pete is going at because we're actually doing it in another town. The building inspector has a right to issue a foundation only permit. And usually sometimes that'll kill 60 days, so we can get in there earlier as he's reviewing the bulk of the thing.
Yep.
I think sometimes the spirit of getting something in their ground a little faster is working on the foundation while we're also paving or something. Sometimes that brings up speed. I think maybe that's what Peter was going to. It saves me 2 months, saves everybody 2 months by allowing that. And Bob probably has the right to do that. Further, the fire department also has a right, because the National Fire Code actually states that it doesn't have to be binder. It actually has to support a fire truck at a certain weight. So the gravel has to be placed to support a fire truck, and as well with the turning movement radiuses.
Yep.
There's a fire safety plan that you have to do as well, and you got to get that from the fire department. So there is some leeway to some of those rules, but I don't think we have an issue really with the binder thing, anyways.
I know a couple people on the call have their hands up, but Mr. Morrow, I think you want to say something directly relevant to what we're talking about right now.
Yes. And I don't know if 104 units are going to make or break any future developments down the road.
It'll help,
Well,
especially when you combine it with Misco Hills,
right. That's what I figured.
which I think will be right on the heels. I imagine you're doing pretty much simultaneously.
That's the only reason I brought it up.
Yep.
John Morrow, 54 Pleasant. This also ties into another fire issue that I've heard of on these multi-story wood-framed apartment buildings. Is it going to be that all buildings are finished, completed, and fire alarm and sprinkler systems are in place before the first rental unit is moved into?
Yes, Bob will not issue an occupancy permit unless every unit and everything passes.
All buildings, not one building, all buildings.
No, they do building by building.
We did a waiver, didn't we, to let the buildings stay closer than they were supposed to be and to be bigger?
I can't remember, did we?
Not closer together, no.
I thought we had, two of the
Just
buildings were
leasing
closer.
office was closer.
Okay.
Okay.
But this has been an issue nationally about, and we had this issue just outside of Boston about 4 or 5 years ago, where multiple buildings were being built. One building was finished, there was a fire, but the two buildings adjacent to it had no sprinkler systems. And it wound up that all 3 buildings were lost. So that's something I'd have a concern with, or might have to ask the fire department about.
But we haven't actually waived the distance, and
Well, again, wood frame structures they should be sprinklered, but I wouldn't feel comfortable having one building occupied and the one next to it technically a tinderbox, because there's no fire protection.
yeah, I don't think there's any way around that. I mean, we've got that right now in Prentice.
Again, that's why I thought of it, because those buildings are fairly close to one another.
Yeah.
It's just a thought, but
Yeah, I mean, we can't certainly. I don't think it's reasonable, or to expect the applicant to finish all the buildings to the point of being sprinklered before any occupancy permits issue. That's, but we haven't waived the distance, so
well, we did. I know we did. We waived the length, I think, of 2 buildings, but
yes, the length, yeah.
yeah. Again, it's just something that.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay.
So I don't know who guessed. Oh, Dan, do you want to say something? Oh, are you just stretching? All right. Who's guessed that has their hand up?
I don't know, I'll have to have them. I had to forward my link to Scott Nowitzki, and he forwarded it to someone, so hold on.
It might be me. It's Julie Capizzello.
And your address, Julie?
34 Pleasant Street.
34 Pleasant?
34, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he had forwarded that to me, so thank you. I couldn't be there in person tonight. So, yeah, I just wanted to thank the board in Eastland and everyone. It's certainly been an interesting process to see what goes into this whole project, so thank you for all the work. And just to echo John's sentiments, and I certainly do not envy your job. But to echo Catherine's points, I just want to, for one last time, express my dissent to the project. And it's not about that I don't want something built there in affordable housing units. It's the size, the scope, the scale, the number of units, and the traffic, what it will bring to Pleasant Street in a whole neighborhood of single family units. I also, I'm very interested in why the exterior corridors for these apartments was chosen and settled on. I think that's very unsafe in the area and for this scale. I do have a question for Eastland, and I'm not sure if memory serves me correctly. Obviously, this has been a long process, and it's been quite some time since we were there at the library in one of these meetings. Eastland, is it true? I can't remember. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. Do you own the new property in Millbury that was recently built? And What's the size of that? Is that open? What's your occupancy rate if it is open?
We are the developers of the Clearview project at the Old Country Club, but we are not building any apartments in Millbury. I believe that's somebody else.
That was someone else. Okay, I was just unsure if it was going to look similar. Maybe it was raised that a similar property of the ones in right downtown. So just questioning that. But I wish you luck. And again, my dissent. But thank you to the board and everyone for the work that you've done on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. All right, anyone else want to say anything? Any more hands up or anyone on the phone?
Scott, no, it's,
Oh,
Scott had his hands up,
Yeah.
but
Scott
not
had his
anymore.
hand up, but he-
Well, we're waiting for Scott.
It's just the same as what I've been saying. It's same what other people saying, so I'm not going to repeat.
Thank you. You had one more comment from the finance members here?
Yep, Colleen Roy, just to kind of balance it out, I strongly support this project. I've attended a majority of the meetings. I think that they have worked really well with you guys, and you guys have done a lot of great work, and great job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no other input? We've got everything, Dan, we've got everything we need. We can close the hearing? You good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm just going to draft the findings that we normally put in the decision. If you can give me a couple weeks to do that, then I can come back and at your next meeting, we can just talk about the final draft.
Yep, okay. So at this point, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing for case number 892.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call just to be safe. Mr. Adams, any discussion? Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Vice Chairman votes yes. All right, public hearing is closed. So, what is it, 45 days? We have some number of days to get the decision?
It's 40 days.
Yeah, 40 days, okay. We have a meeting on the 9th, and I was gonna suggest maybe we could vote then, but, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be here on the 9th, and I'm gonna have to do a Mullen for, that meeting, and that's for, Misco, so, maybe we just plan on whatever comes after that. To actually, we don't have to pick a date at this point where the public hearing is closed, so we do not have to pick a date for the next, when we reconvene for this. So, maybe we just wait, let's get to the 9th, and we can decide on when the next meeting is gonna be and when we can actually vote on this decision. Does that make sense?
Are you asking me, Bill?
Yeah, I am kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's fine. You're right. You don't have to continue it to a date certain.
Right. So we'll just wait till the 9th, and then, that one, we'll have to probably pick a date, and then we can maybe just do them both the same night and something along those lines.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else, anyone?
So the clock has stopped, is what you're saying?
Well, a different clock has started.
the clock is stopped on the public hearing because we've closed it, but it is
And
now
that's a
started.
6-month deal?
The
Yeah.
180 days, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now we have 40 days to finalize the decision, vote on it, and sign it.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have anything else for this hearing. I'll turn the meeting back over to Mr. Waller at this point.
Bill, I would recommend that you take a vote to close the hearing. I don't think you did that, right?
We just did that.
Did you did it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was distracted.
Took a vote to close the public hearing. Right?
Okay.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, a vote. You took a vote. Okay.
Yes. Took a roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
So the only other item on the agenda for this evening is minutes from the October 12th meeting.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Good night, guys. I'll sign off.
Good night.
Thanks, Dan.
Katrina, I had,
I gave everybody copies of
okay.
of what you gave us. Yep.
And I just want to apologize to the board for complete irresponsibility. So, I'm really sorry to miss it.
I don't even remember what it was.
I just got caught up at work and
Okay.
didn't get
Oh,
it.
oh.
And didn't even have my phone on me till I responded, so.
No problem.
Which I didn't even see till like I was in there at 10:30, and then I was like, oh.
So, really embarrassing moment.
It happens to the best.
Don't worry about it. Worse things have happened.
So, all right, so the hybrid meeting called order 7:01. And so I guess we don't need to document what the planning board was doing.
Nope,
We just need
they
to
have their
document
own
what us.
minutes. Yep.
Okay, so discussions with the planning board, and then they went away.
What are these corrected?
Should we maybe put, I mean, the
added
planning board ended their do we need to put, no, I guess not.
No, because I have ZBA opens a public hearing for our case.
Yeah.
I can put the time in there if you want the time.
Yeah, open letters.
Okay.
I just, maybe you should have a line in there basis says the planning board ended their meeting or something, so just so it doesn't appear that this whole meeting is a combined meeting with both boards.
Planning board departed or something.
Planning board closed their meeting and left, something like that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Just so it's clear that this whole meeting was not a combined meeting.
Yep. Sure.
And I made the replacement comments because I wanted it to be more specific as to what was discussed. In the sewer department comments, we reviewed the study that was conducted by the consultant for the sewer department.
Which I gave you guys each a copy of that.
Yep, I'm fine. I don't have anything else.
All right, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the October 12th meeting as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Cusker?
Yes.
Mr. Yeoman?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Votes yes. This time, I entertain a motion to
I move we adjourn.
adjourn. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. By roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Cusker?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Bizwas? Chairman votes yes. Adjourned.